The House Veterans Affairs Division will come to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Representative Becker Finn, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we do have a quorum. And may I have a motion to approve the minutes of February 13 meeting?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Representative Paulson moves to approve the February 13 minutes. Is there any discussion? All approved? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The first bill on the agenda, first of all, welcome everybody on President's Day. And we have some good bills up before us today. And I would like to, the first bill that we have is House File 1209. Representative Cornish, please come to the table and with your testifiers. And I will move House File 1209 before the committee, and that'll be referred to the Civil Law Committee. And welcome, Representative Cornish, and you are a veteran too, am I correct?
Pretty close. Not quite meet the veteran status. I served 13 and a half years in the Guard, but since I was never deployed or served over 180 days consecutive, I'm not considered a veteran for veterans benefits. But
Well, welcome. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman and members, the House file, 1209 basically is a bill that would require somebody, a vendor that offers services to veterans if they come in there, and there's a service that they provide that could be offered for free at a veteran service officer. They would have to disclose that, I think, both in advertising and their literature there. And I brought several testifiers with me. This bill, I think, was heard in committee and passed before, and then whatever got hung up in the Senate or how that worked. But turn it over to Tom McLaughlin from Maye Quade, and he'll introduce himself. I think he's a legislative rep for the Commander's Task Force. Tom?
Welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Mr. Chair, I'm Tom McLaughlin. I'm the legislative chairman for the Veterans of Foreign Wars in Minnesota, and we are members of the Commander's Task Force here also. So I'm actually speaking on behalf of this bill. As Representative Cornish mentioned, the bill was heard, I believe, last year and did move on, and it kind of just disappeared by the end of the session. But those of you who are familiar with the Commander's Task Force and the priority goals we have for this session, this was one of the items that was listed again this year. And it's unanimously supported by all the organizations that belong to the State Commander's Task Force. And of course, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, we support it wholeheartedly. And I'm basically just here to acknowledge the fact that this bill is supported by all the organizations that work with veterans in the Commander's Task Force. And I'll let the testifiers take it from there.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Mike McLaughlin. I'm the Blue Earth County Veteran Service Officer, a veteran, and I'm involved in most of the organizations that Tom mentioned. Thank you, Chair and committee members, for having me here. Here, too, as well, just to testify on behalf of the support for this bill. I am a member of the Minnesota Association of County Veteran Service Officers, too, which is also supporting this. That's from all 87 counties in the state of Minnesota. And just to clarify kind of as a service officer and as a veteran myself, the merits I see in this bill isn't so much as hey, this is a anti-law firms or an anti-lawyer bill. This is more of a public awareness for veterans out there who might not be aware of the services that are already publicly funded through county veteran service officers and through veteran service organizations that do this free, service-free and no charge. So really, I think the mechanisms that are set out in place in this bill are very significant and very sufficient to increase that understanding and to keep those benefits where they belong with the veteran. If they so choose to see fit to go utilize these other services, that's fine. We're not opposing that. We just want to make sure that veterans are educated on all options that are available to them, especially those that are free and already paid for by taxpayer dollars.
Mr. Chairman, Ben Johnson here from the Department of Veterans Affairs would like to say a few words, if that's okay.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, please introduce yourself.
Chair Detmer, members of the committee, my name is Ben Johnson. I'm the Legislative Director for the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs. I'm here to echo the support of the organizations that you see in front of you, as well as thank Representative Cornish for carrying this bill. This is a policy initiative supported by the governor. This is something that Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs put forward to the governor in our request for support. And he endorses this bill and offered his support in that he wants to make sure that veterans understand that they don't have to pay out of pocket, that with 87 counties represented by county veteran service officers, veteran service organizations represented by the Commander's Task Force, as well as the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs, these services can be provided free of charge to veterans, and it has been a very solid mechanism for making sure veterans receive the benefits that they've earned. And I'll echo Mr. McLaughlin, and this is not anti-attorneys or anti-business. This is simply a matter of making sure that veterans aren't taken advantage of, that they understand they can receive the support to make claims and file appeals with the help of existing systems and organizations.
And Mr. Chair, that's the bill.
Representative Cornish, yes.
We'll stand for any questions. That's the bill as presented.
I just got a couple comments here that many times I get phone calls from constituents on different issues, and usually my first question is, have you contacted your county service officer? And many times that answer is no, and what I do, I look at my directory and I'll say, okay, what county do you live in? This is the person you need to call, and they'll get the answers for you. And then sometimes that's all the veterans needed to know is who they need to contact. And our first source is their county service veterans officers in our counties, and they just do an outstanding job in all 87 counties. And for the committee, they're trained by the MDVA, and then they're hired by the counties. And so we think that's a very important asset that we have at the county level. So are there questions from the committee? Are there any questions from the audience? I'd like to make any comments. Yes. Mr. Kaiser? Please introduce yourself.
Members of the committee, Representative Detmer, I'm Jerry Kaiser. I'm the executive or vice chairman of the United Veterans Legislative Council, 30 different smaller veteran organizations, of which some of the Commander's Task Force members are involved with. And we wholeheartedly support this. I believe the county veteran service organizations are part of our organization, and we wholeheartedly support that. And I think that between the Commander's Task Force and us, that is the major portion of all the veteran service organizations in the state of Minnesota, and we certainly support everything that they are doing and this particular bill.
Thank you. And I think if you take a look at the people in the audience today, we have a great group of people from the different veterans organizations or from VFW, American Legions, or wherever that comes here to support and listen to what's going on in this committee. So Representative Cornish, any closing remarks?
No, just thank you for your attention and support, Mr. Chair and members.
Okay, with that, the chair renews the motion of House File 1209 be re-referred to the Civil Law Committee. And all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion prevails. House File 910 will be re-referred to Civil Law. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next bill on the agenda is House File 1109. The bill appropriates money from the bond proceeds of veterans' homes in Montevideo and Bemidji. We will first have Representative Miller come to the testify table and talk about the Montevideo Veterans Home proposal. And welcome again. I know last session you brought some outstanding people from your area, and actually I was out at a town hall meeting, and you also did a presentation there. And but welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I'm Representative Tim Miller. And Chair, was this already, did you already motion for this too?
Well, I'm going to have Representative Bliss. He's part of the committee. He can
Do it when he comes up here?
move it. Yes.
Okay, perfect. We'll do that. So, Mr. Chair and members, for those, we'll do things a little bit different here in that because we have two different areas of the state that are going to be presenting this, I'm going to present it. We have some people here from Montevideo, and then when it comes to the Bemidji people, Representative Bliss and I believe Representative Grossel are going to come down, and I'll step away. So I thank you for this time. I don't think I have to argue with this community or with this committee that we have a responsibility for our veterans all the way until they pass from this world into the other. And this is talking about a veterans home in Montevideo. We have a bill that combines Montevideo and Bemidji for reasons of the number of beds that are available potentially in the state of Minnesota, which is 144, so they'd be 72 beds each. And I don't want to take my time talking. I would rather have my testifiers speak to what it is we're going to be doing today.
Okay, would you introduce yourself for the record, please?
Chairman Detmer, members of the Veteran Affairs Division Committee, good afternoon. My name is Angie Steinbach, and I'm the Assistant City Manager for the City of Montevideo, and I'm also the spouse of an Army National Guard veteran. We are here today to discuss with you the issue facing the City of Montevideo and our ongoing challenge of attempting to gain state approval for the construction and operation of a veterans home in our community. First, I would like to show you all a short video from the Department of Veterans Affairs about what a state veterans home is.
The State Veterans Home is a partnership between the VA and the state to provide long-term care services for veterans. There's a skilled level of care, domiciliary, and some state veterans home have adult day health care programs. The State Veterans Home program uses very similar admission criteria as any nursing home would. A daily skilled need. Memory care is another thing that the State Veterans Home can provide.
It's important not to hold your breath. You're just holding the stretch. And relax and stretch.
The State Veterans Home has multiple programs that are customized to the veterans, and they provide levels of service that are unique to each veteran. Some people may just need assisted living. They may just need a safe place to spend the night, if you will, but really they're completely independent during the day, and it's just a supportive environment. They call that the domiciliary. Other units might provide more help with the physical needs, the activities of daily living, and other units are more geared towards those patients who have dementia and mental health issues that need a different environment than the patient who's physically impaired from a spinal cord injury, let's say.
You're being good today, huh? Seeing all the veterans? Huh? Making sure they're feeling good? Make them happy?
The unique thing about the State Veterans Home is that you have all veterans residing there. In the community nursing home program, you may have any type of person that resides there, and I think veterans really benefit from being around other veterans, and the staff understand veterans' issues, PTSD, depression, chronic diseases, or they just may need that extra level of support.
The state of Minnesota currently has 5 state-run veterans homes located in Fergus Falls, Laverne, Silver Bay, Minneapolis, and Hastings. The waiting list to receive one of the 860 beds in Minnesota veterans' homes includes roughly over 1,500 individuals at any given time. An increasing number of disabilities are connected to military service and often require more skilled nursing care. Our state's aging veteran population will continue to put more strain on these homes. According to the United States Department of Veteran Affairs Statistics Veteran Population Model 2011, which estimates living veterans in Minnesota from 2010 to 2040, there are an estimated 386,000 veterans in Minnesota. Of these, about 42%, or 162,000, are under the age of 60, and 58%, or 223,000, are over the age of 60. Veterans Home provide opportunities for veterans to receive specialized care and a camaraderie with other veteran residents in the home. For many veterans, military service and operational deployment lead to a strong sense of identity and belonging. For healthcare professionals, working with veterans and demonstrating an understanding of military experience can greatly enhance the therapeutic alliance and the delivery of effective treatment. Veterans are more likely to engage with healthcare practitioners whom feel they understand or seek to understand their health problems within the context of their unique military experience. A veteran's military experiences may have taken place many years in the past or more recently, and they may have been deployed on different types of operations. Ultimately, our veterans have to shoulder the burden of their service to our country. Regardless of the timing or nature, a veteran's experiences can have a lasting and profound influence. There are at least two readily identifiable reasons for this enduring impact. First, most veterans join the service as young adults, an important time of life for shaping values, beliefs, and attitudes. Because they were socialized into military culture at a time when they were malleable, many will have adopted military ideals and values as their own. Second, during service, many of the highest impact experiences will have occurred during times of extreme stress. In some cases, during life-threatening situations such as this, what is learned under these conditions can be resistant to change because it is associated with survival. There's a range of service-related experiences that may need to be considered when working with a veteran that traditional civilian providers may overlook. You can see a small list of the ailments specific to veterans here, including everything from PTSD, military sexual trauma, Gulf War syndrome, brain injury, depression, Agent Orange, mental illness, respiratory and breathing problems, skin conditions, vision and hearing loss, heart and cardiovascular problems, blue water vets, and Camp Lejeune disease. The impact of these health problems can lead to tension, particularly in a civilian setting. These experiences do not apply to all veterans, but having a medical staff cognizant of veteran-specific issues can ultimately determine the difference between productive and unproductive care. The City of Montevideo understands this need and wants to help our state's veterans. When the Minnesota legislature approves initial and ongoing costs, the community, along with the Department of Veterans Affairs, must complete a federal application for funds. At that time, the project will be placed on a federal list for funding approval. It is estimated that if state approved a veterans home project today, the home would not be able to be constructed or occupied for another 4.5 years. Nonetheless, Montevideo has completed the required pre-design process for the home and has updated its plan annually for the last 10 years. The veterans home would be located on a 13.5-acre site purchased by the City of Montevideo on the southeast corner of the city limits. You can see in orange on our screen here. The site is well positioned for residents to participate in community activities as part of the city's desire to have a veteran-friendly community. By using the local taxi and van services, residents can easily access the commercial Main Street, the Chippewa County Fairgrounds, the Cultural Center, the Fine Arts Center, and to the north, the new hospital and Veterans Affairs community-based outpatient clinic. From the larger city context, the City of Montevideo has amenities which will enrich the residents' social, educational, spiritual, and recreational needs. There's also open space to the south, east, and west to offer outdoor opportunities via bike trails and walking paths to nature preserves. The proposed 70-bed veterans home provides state-of-the-art social and operational organization with 4 neighborhood clusters, all equal distance from communal space, which includes an exercise center. The building provides passive solar design and is a platform for solar thermal collectors. The site plan provides for geothermal heating and wind turbine generated power. The Veterans Home fundraising includes a total project cost of $30,716,000. Of that, a federal share of $20,475,000 and the state share of $10,240,000. Of that, the local committee has raised $5,032,145 to go towards the state share of the project, leaving a remainder of the state's obligation of $5.2 million. So the city has taken it upon itself to do fundraising because we believe so much in this project and our veterans. The estimated annual ongoing cost to the state for this home is $5.2 million. That's been a future number that's been provided to us. In 2008, in response to numerous communities vying for a veterans home, the Department of Veteran Affairs conducted a community identification study for a new Minnesota veterans home to determine the selection within the state that would show the optimal benefit to veterans and to the state of Minnesota. 17 communities, which includes Montevideo and Bemidji, met the minimum demographic and operational characteristic requirements. In 2013, a new group attempted to blemish the information provided in the report, and many alternatives have been looked at through the years, but none address the 144 veteran home beds that are considered an unmet need in our state. One issue that has been questioned in the past is the need to construct veterans home nursing home beds when a local nursing home facility is not 100% full. Currently, the federal VA, under their state veterans home program, only participates in construction activities and provides per diem payments for care in state-owned facilities. This prevents the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs from adding small units to pre-existing long-term care units. Community nursing homes can apply to the local VA hospital for contract nursing beds under a different federal program. Another alternative that has been reviewed is the Federal Veterans Administration community-based care models for aging veterans in the medical foster home program. The program has homes within 35 miles of the Minneapolis VA campus, and each home provides for 3 adults with medical support provided by the VA. Implications include a limited impact on the state's veteran population and the costs behind foster home programs. Another alternative was addressing homeless veterans issues. And another alternative that's been looked at is doing nothing and letting our veterans suffer. As the Department of Veterans Affairs in the video at the beginning of this presentation, Veterans Home provide opportunity for veterans to receive specialized care and a camaraderie with residents in the home. For many veterans, military service and operation deployment lead to a strong sense of identity and belonging. For clinicians working with veterans, demonstrating an understanding of the military experience can greatly enhance the therapeutic alliance and the delivery of effective treatment. Veterans are more likely to engage with healthcare practitioners whom they feel understand or seek to understand their healthcare problems within the context of their military service. The Department of Veterans Affairs believes in serving Minnesota's veterans, their dependents, and survivors by connecting them with federal and state care benefits that they have earned. Former General Petraeus explained that in World War II, 11.2% of the nation served for 4 years. During the Vietnam era, 4.3% served in 12 years. And since 2001, only 0.45% of our population has served in the global war on terror. These are unbelievable statistics. Over time, fewer and fewer people have shouldered more and more of the burden, and it's only getting worse. Where possible, these veterans should be made a priority and should receive the care they deserve. Over the last 10 years, the City of Montevideo has presented legislators their plans for construction and operation of a new veterans home in Montevideo. Each year, this presentation and supporting information is updated in order to make it current and accurate. Montevideo has consistently proven that their site is qualified by federal rules and regulations to serve as the home of the next Minnesota Veterans Home. It is our belief that wherever and whenever possible, these veterans should be made a priority and should receive the care they deserve. While numerous communities vie for a veterans home to be placed in their community, the most important thing to acknowledge is that a veterans home is someone's home. Meeting the federally required minimum demographic and operational characteristic requirements will make it a good institution, but the community must make it a home. Montevideo area citizens acknowledge us and will continue to fight for the construction and operation of a veterans home in our community in order to support and serve the veterans of our state. We believe in this. I'd like to pass to Mark Garvey.
Okay.
Well done. And we have another testifier here. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Chairman Dittmer, members of the Veterans Affairs Committee, Thank you for allowing us to testify today. My name is Marvin Garby. I'm currently serving my 30th year on the Montevideo City Council and the council president. I served 37 years in the Minnesota Army National Guard, retiring as Chief Warrant Officer 4.
That's good, really good.
I worked my last 8 years right down the hill here at the Cedar Street Armory, and I'm currently the commander of American Legion Post 59, past District 7 Vice Commander, and serve in American Legion Honor Guard. You have been presented with the operational cost of a veterans home and the $5 million raised for construction by the city, county, and region with land and infrastructure in place. This site is a prime location in the state, and there is a need for our veterans. This home will allow for more frequent visits from their families so they do not have to travel a long distance. We also have a community outbased clinic, which is a cost savings for the treatment of the veterans. Our CBOC currently serves 2,440 veterans and 728 through telehealth and home health care. In February 2015, we met with Commissioner Shelito and his staff from the State Department of Veterans Affairs. At that time, we were informed there are currently 144 beds available for construction. In addition, the criteria has changed from 12 to 10 beds per household unit. And in your booklet, if you look at page 5, you can see our updated site plans and construction plans. Based on the number of beds available, our architectural firm has developed a new pre-design incorporating these changes with a 70-bed design. Also incorporated will be a household unit for 10 females. Yellow Medicine County, who is adjacent to us and a large supporter, has the Upper Sioux Agency within its boundaries. This home will also provide for a Native American veteran population. Excuse me. We currently are only serving 1% of the veterans in the state. These veterans left their homes, wives, children, parents, and grandparents to serve their country, fully realizing that many of them would not return. During all our wars and conflicts, they endured undue hardship, severe wounds, loss of arms, legs, mental disabilities, and the like. Today, unless you have a spouse, son, or daughter in harm's way, there's not much that we sacrifice for these men and women in combat. Yes, we hear reports almost daily of our war efforts, but we go home, we go to work, and we go on vacation. Unless we have relatives serving or involved in some other way, we do not give that much thought. When there is a combat fatality, we show concern, line funeral routes, and wave flags, as it should be, but soon forget the sorrow and sadness in that soldier's home. We must also remember the number of casualties from Iraq and Afghanistan, and now Yemen is not the final number. Almost daily we read about a soldier that committed suicide. They are also casualties of combat. In addition, we are under the assumption that our military involvement was decreasing, but now ISIS has raised its ugly head. We are providing air support and visors, but now it appears that we will be sending ground troops to Syria. We still have the Minnesota Army National Guard, Minnesota National Guard, Army Reserve soldiers deploying monthly in support of the defense of our state and nation, in addition to the many active duty soldiers that call Minnesota home. I fully understand the financial commitment that the state of Minnesota will be obligated for. This will be the 10th year that we've appeared before your various committees to support the construction of the home. During that time, you constructed the Twin Stadium, the Viking Stadium, and approved $20 million for the St. Paul Saints. I realize these venues enhance and improve the state of Minnesota. During that same time frame, our local American Legion Honor Guard provided military honors for more than 200 funerals for our deceased veterans. And this is just in the immediate Montevideo area and does not include the rest of Chippewa County or adjacent counties. They took the oath to serve and defend. Our veterans deserve your support. They laid their life on the line for defense of this state and nation, and we must also show that we appreciate their efforts on our behalf. Montevideo is the home of the 1st Battalion, 151st Field Artillery, which was the longest-serving National Guard unit that was deployed to Iraq and also served a second deployment. They had 3 casualties during their first deployment. The National Guard Armory in Montevideo is closely located to the proposed site, allowing the ability of these soldiers to interact with residents. I encourage each of you to visit the Department of Veterans Affairs website and look at the video they have on the veterans' home. Our veterans need their home. It is our responsibility to provide them that so honorably sacrificed for us. Here they can visit with their counterparts and have something in common to talk about. They will have medical staff that understands war injuries, both physical and mental. No one understands these sacrifices while in combat, and only another veteran understands their feelings. As you can see vividly on the front of our proposal, we have met all requirements for construction, except with the exception of state approval for bonding and ongoing operational costs. We have demonstrated the need. Now we need you to follow through to give them the support they so richly deserve. I implore you to give thoughtful consideration to our proposal. Pray for our veterans and soldiers daily. God bless America and God bless the state of Minnesota. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you. And are there any questions, the author to testify on the Montevideo project? Then we'll go on to the Bemidji project. So Representative Rosenthal. You can wait till the end? Okay. Are there any other testifiers in the audience on this particular project, on Montevideo project? Okay. Well, thank you. Then we'll bring up the Bemidji project. Okay. Representative Bliss? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Welcome to the committee, your committee that you serve on. And Representative Bliss, as a co-author of the bill, he moves the House File 1109 before the committee. That is, will be re-referred to the State Government Finance Committee. So welcome, and please introduce your guests here, and if they would each then have their time, and then introduce themselves for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. I'm going to introduce the gentleman to my right here. He's probably one of the shyest individuals you'll ever get a chance to meet. Former Beltrami County Commissioner Joe Venny, and our Veterans County Services Officer, Scotty Allison, and our current Beltrami County Commissioner, Dr. Morrison. Right?
Actually, no, that's, I'm not a county.
Oh, you're not, sorry.
And
And Representative Grossel.
Grossell, yes, welcome, welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, thank you for this opportunity. I'll do my best to overcome my innate shyness.
Please introduce yourself for the
My
committee.
name is Joe Venny. I'm retired as the Beltrami County Commissioner of 12 years. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, serving during the end of the Vietnam era, serving in a field artillery battalion in Germany, and then 6 years in the U.S. Army Reserve. With me, as you've already heard to my left, is a veteran service officer, Colonel Scotty Allison, our medical advisor, Colonel Ralph Morris from the Army Medical Corps, longtime advisor and advisee of the Veterans Home Task Force. Those of us that are with us, that are with us from Beltrami County today, unfortunately did not include the current chair of the Veterans Home Task Force in Bemidji, Commissioner Lukchek, who is a professional architect and who has rendered pre-design schemes et pro bono for the facility. There is so much in common between the Montevideo project and the Bemidji project that I will not wax redundant in that way. But I do want to preface the remarks that I make by saying that we have yet to fully honor the moral obligation of taking care of our veterans. And another addendum I would say is that services delayed are services denied. I know that we will receive strong support from this committee. But let me say the genesis of our situation goes back some 10 years when we have identified, and the statistics will speak for themselves, now about 27,000 or more veterans in the northern Minnesota 16 county catchment area that are either underserved or unserved by virtue of the fact that our veterans population complement happens to be located 2, 3, and 4 hours away from pre-existing facilities, whether it be in Fergus Falls, in Laverne, or in Silver Bay. That is not acceptable. Not acceptable to the veterans, not acceptable to the loved ones, not acceptable to their families. We need to do better. And I need to tell you that I took umbrage when I read that the governor strongly supports funding to sustain the lives of the primates in the St. Paul Zoo. But I see that there is not enough support of veterans and their needs and the money that may be attached thereto. You can see by your presentation that we have 18,155 veterans living in Beltrami County, and it's 9 surrounding counties, according to a recent American Community survey. The nearest veterans home, I've told you, is already at Fergus Falls, Laverne, and Silver Bay. That's too far, much too far. If anything, the biggest single glaring discrepancy for us is the geographic distance within which we find ourselves functioning. Northern Minnesota is experiencing a rapidly aging veterans population. 77.2% of the veterans living in the 16 counties are over 65 years of age. In the 2011 ACS survey, 50% of the veterans in the 16 counties were over age 65. This has now increased to 55.1%. Healthcare needs for these older veterans is increasing, especially for Vietnam War veterans. Let me not forget to mention that northern Minnesota is home to a high concentration of American Indian veterans. We're located among the great Indian reservations of Red Lake, Leech Lake, White Earth, and Boys Fort, all located within our 16-county catchment area. 1,036 American Indian veterans live in these 16 counties. 35% of Minnesota American Indian veterans live in northern Minnesota. And a prerequisite to having a veterans home located anywhere is that of the existence of a community-based outpatient clinic, which we have in Bemidji. We have also an in-kind donation of a building site on the Sanford Health Systems campus in Bemidji, 15 acres valued at $1 million. We are located in an economically depressed area, so we do not have ready access of self-funding any substantial portion of our project. But the record speaks for itself, the need speaks for itself. I would like now to relinquish the microphone, if you will, to our Veteran Service Officer, if I might, and then to any and all, including not the least of which are two representatives, the two Matts, Grossel and Bliss. Thank you.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Chairman Detmer, Scotty Allison, Beltrami County Veteran Service Office. I'm just going to be quick. I know there's other things on the agenda today, but one of the commissioners stated to me on the phone today that he's going to go and look for a cash contribution from Beltrami County, somewhere between $1 million to $3 million tomorrow at the Beltrami County meeting. I would also point out that the community-based outpatient clinic is doubling in size from 5,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet, and it's right next door to where the proposed veterans home would be built in Bemidji. We're also in the middle of updating our workbook like Montevideo has. I'm about halfway through that, and then we'll be presenting that. That's all I have, sir.
Okay. Mr. Morris?
Thank you. My name is Ralph Morris. I'm a physician and a retired Army medical officer. During my last year of military service, I represented the Minnesota National Guard on Governor Pelini's Veterans Home Task Force. And I think you have heard a very good summary of many aspects of that task force, and I won't repeat that. I would like just to remind the committee that we have an opportunity here in the state of Minnesota to build 2 new homes, the cost of which, for every dollar that the state puts in, the federal government will be putting in $2 for the construction of these 2 homes. And for the operation of these 2 homes, for every dollar that the state puts in, there'll be another dollar either from the federal government or from the residents of these homes. I believe this is a real opportunity for us to serve our veterans. We don't know how much longer we will have this opportunity, a window of opportunity to provide these types of services, and would urge your serious consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Purcell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Macrisel. And I represent the area of District 2A, and I've got a history of family service from my grandfather who served in World War I, to my dad who served in World War II, uncles and brothers who served in Korea and the Vietnam Wars, right on down through to present time. I've got 2 children who are enlisted in serving our country as well.
And yourself, too.
I served as I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I served also in transportation and in tanks. So it was a good time, a very, very honorably spent time. And I've got one child that has done a tour in Afghanistan and is back home safely. My father and my grandfather never benefited from a veteran's home, but that doesn't change the fact that we owe our veterans a lot. And the ones that are here, some of them may be able to benefit from a veteran's home in that area, some may not. But we owe it to the ones that will be coming, that will be needing to be taken care of. We owe that much to them. So thank you for your time.
Okay, questions from the committee for the Montevideo group, or excuse me, for the Bemidji group, and we have Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is not so much a question. I support both of you. Representative Miller, you have a great bill. Representative Bliss, you have a great bill as well. But so does Chair Davids. And my question is, how do we sort out the need from the limited amount of resources available? And is that something we do in this committee, or does that get decided somewhere else?
Representative Rosenthal, I think what we're going to do here, I'm going to approve all 3, okay? And from there, it goes on to the next committee, State Government Finance. But I know that the legislature is going to have to decide whether we have 1, 2, or maybe 3. If we have 3, then and if it has to be part of the bonding bill, then that is sent to the federal government, and then the federal government will do a priority, and we might end up with 1 or none. So it's all but we have to do our job as the state of Minnesota to look at these 3 projects, and all 3 are well represented by their state reps, their senators, and also by their testifiers. And I think that's the process that's going to take. Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for bringing this before us, and good luck in the next committee.
Representative Lesh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't get, what were the costs associated? I didn't see in here a fiscal note, or do we? No, I mean, what's it going to cost to build these?
Well, okay, so let's have each person, maybe each representative,
Okay.
you take a look at the legislation. I think the appropriations is
Okay. I think, Mr. Chair-
$6 million for Montevideo and $10 million for the Bemidji.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I got the answer on this one, too. Thanks to Representative O'Neill. And my question is, has Governor Dayton expressed his opposition to these items in the bonding bill?
Representative Lesh, that maybe Mr. Johnson could come down and I know you have a guest with you. You might want to introduce your guest too, Mr. Johnson. Okay.
Well, Mr. Chair, before he has to come down, I heard the former county commissioner indicate that I think Governor Dayton had expressed his opposition. Did I understand you correctly? Was it?
Well, I would say it's not an opposition, it's more of just there was nothing in the bonding bill for veterans' homes. It was, well, I shouldn't say that, it was to fix up the ones we currently have and also to fix the bridge at the Minneapolis home. So that was the two things that were entered into his bonding bill.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
Representative Lesh.
thank you, Mr. Chair. And former Commissioner, is it Venny? I don't know how you pronounce his name, but he's in the middle of, Venny? Okay, he had you had spoken with great indignation about the governor of that, and you had mentioned primates at the St. Paul Zoo. Wasn't that you said, Commissioner Venny? Primates at St. Paul Zoo? I'm over here, Mr. Venny.
Sir, yes, sir,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The sound comes from above you, but yeah.
Mr. Venny.
I'll do the decibels to
That's,
overcome.
that's okay. So you spoke with great indignation about primates at the zoo getting the veterans' money, right?
I hope that we would at least be on a slight above par of that and find that there's support from the governor in his budget for the care of veterans. That's the point I raised.
Okay, well, Mr. Chair.
Representative Lesh.
And Commissioner Venny, I appreciate that, but I represent not just St. Paul, but I represent the St. Paul Zoo, okay? It's a know your audience thing, okay, here?
Oh, yes,
And remember, on a bonding bill that could be upwards of $1 billion, could be, we can sustain more of that, I think up to like 1.3. There are hundreds of projects that you could choose to say, this got the money and not our veterans, okay? And by the way, the gorillas at the zoo, that was about 10 years ago, that was in the bonding bill, okay? It was 10 years ago, trust me. I voted for it, okay? So I'm just saying that, as a person who represents St. Paul, there are many, many worthy projects. And by the way, whether your project gets in or out, it's going to be machinations of how the single party that controls the legislature here right now decides what goes in the targets for the budgets, okay? I'm not in that party. So I'm not going to be invited to the party where they decide what goes in the bill, all right? So it's very important that you talk to the right people. And as far as the folks on this committee, they've all got bonding projects in their committees that are very important too. I support this project, and I'm going to support it going forward. But just remember, there are going to be sensitivities around the table to different projects when projects get pitted against each other. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Representative Lesh, I think most people understand that there's going to be probably probably $7, $8, $9 billion worth of requests when we're talking some of the requests around the state. And but we also realize that the requests for two of these veterans homes have been going on for about 10 years. So they've been patient, and but our job as a committee is to get it out of our committee and get it over to the next committee, and then we'll go from there. But some good comments, Representative Lesh.
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman,
Manny.
Representative Lesh, far be it for me to want to abrade anybody's sensitivities when I brought up that particular remark. I know that the honorable members of the committee and of the people in attendance here support veterans. It's a matter of how you prioritize all the spending that you need to approve of and eventually exercise in your responsibility to the legislature. I just am appreciative of the opportunity of having been here today and to advocate on behalf of veterans and not at the expense of anybody else. I do not speak in such a way that we would want to get ahead of anybody in the state of Minnesota. We honor supporting the needs of veterans no matter where they're found in the state of Minnesota. It's that we make our case in the north, and we hope that these statistics speak for themselves. And I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Representative Becker Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, Mr. Venny, I wanted to thank you for acknowledging our Native American veterans. National service is really important to a lot of Native people, and so I just wanted to thank you for acknowledging that the Bemidji location in particular would address some of those needs. And then just wanted to say thank you for coming, and another really compelling case for why we need a bonding bill this year, and your statement about services delayed or services denied and was really powerful. So I thank you for coming to testify today.
Thank you, Representative.
And Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A growing number of our veterans are female veterans, and I guess we've always had difficulty being able to find accommodations for all veterans, let alone female veterans. And I'm wondering if the two projects would be willing to discuss their protocol for making sure that female veteran services would and needs would be honored at these two facilities as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chairman Dittmer?
Yes.
Representative Driscoll? The veterans, there are beds available for veterans in our proposed veterans home. For female, excuse me, female veterans. And Native American, as I indicated. That answer your question?
I could clarify, Mr. Chair.
Representative Miller?
Mr. Chair, Representative O'Driscoll, let me squeeze forward just a little bit here. I just want to clarify a little bit more in the presentation. There are many requirements by the federal government of how these things are built and how they're laid out, and they're kind of in the, I don't know if this is the term they use, this is the term I use, they're kind of in a pod layout now. We have a central core, and then you have rooms around that. And the Montevideo home, I have not seen the Bemidji, so they'd have to answer that. But in the Montevideo home, the pods are about 10 per, correct?
Right.
And one of those pods are specifically designated to women veterans at this time. And at such time that there is a needed expansion of that, then the pods will be able to address that
We
as
have
well.
the same pod design.
Same pod design as well.
Representative Driscoll?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, disproportionately, I think that we, with the rooms that are, beds that are available and beds that are projected to come online, we still probably don't have proportionately enough beds available for women as we do for men who served our country honorably and may be entitled to such a benefit. And one of the things that gave me pause to raise that question, and in both presentations, we were led to believe that the only veterans that were there were male veterans. Their wives, their families stayed home, and that is not the case. And I just want to go on record to let people know that we have veterans of both genders in this state and in this country.
Thank you, Representative Driscoll. Well said. Yes.
Chairman.
Please come to the mic. Please come to the mic.
Chairman Detmer, we also have family members in some of the veterans' homes, and that needs to be pointed out. In Beltrami County and the surrounding areas, there's about 5.4% female veterans, so we know they're out there.
Chair
Please
Detmer.
introduce yourself again.
Angie Steinbach, City of Montevideo. Representative Driscoll, I just wanted to make mention in my part of the presentation, I make sure to highlight in there the female veterans and the veterans that are the Native American population within our area also. We do believe that's a priority. And then, as you were mentioning also, spouses, which are not commonly mentioned in these discussions. Spouses are able to come into these homes, whether they be the husbands or the wives. So those are also considerations that we've taken into effect. Ultimately, I believe in the end, the Department of Veterans Affairs will set forth their beliefs as well.
Yeah, well said. Are there any other questions?
Sure.
Yes, Representative?
Representative Grousel again. Representative O'Driscoll. My daughter is a veteran. I don't designate veterans male or female. This case here, they will be designated male or female, but I call them veterans. And my daughter's the one that served in Afghanistan, and she's going to be needing these services too. So if we want to get real tactical, then we'll separate them out for you.
Yeah. Representative Driscoll?
Mr. Chair, I didn't mean to hit a nerve with people on this, but again, as someone who's served on this committee since I've been here, or some facsimile of this, there is constantly forgetting of Native American veterans and female veterans in the conversation. So today, since we were talking about accommodations, I wanted to just raise that in conversation again. And it's not anything against the testimony. I just want to make sure that we are thinking about all of the needs of veterans when we are looking at this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And you've always been that way in the committees. This is your 4th year on this committee, so I understand where you're coming from. Very well. Very well said. Representative O'Neill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I'm especially excited to see the Bemidji home come forward because I grew up in Shevlin. So if you're from Beltrami County, you know where Shevlin is. Yes. I grew up on a 300-some acre farm just off of Highway 2. So we had a mile of Highway 2 and a half mile deep. And went to Bemidji State, graduated, just the same as the chair from Bemidji State University. And I know the area very, very well. That's I still have family there. I have my father that still lives in Bemidji, and he was a Korean War veteran. So he's in a little apartment now by himself, but I know the area well. And what I'm really excited to hear is the fact that you'll be serving Native American veterans as well. That just warms my heart, because I like to say I grew up in the middle of 3 reservations, and I didn't, lots and lots of my classmates were Native American, amazing people that have gone on to do amazing things. And so I'm very excited to hear that. I have a very technical question because I am from there. And you had mentioned that Sanford are donating the 15 acres to do this, but where exactly is it located? Is it near the hospital, or where is the location?
Yes, go ahead.
If I may, Mr.
Yes.
Chair, Representative O'Neill, it is located on the hospital campus, very near to the hospital and very near to other housing accommodations there. So the location is ideal, we believe, and Bemidji has become a regional center for a number of reasons: education, commerce, retail trade, and certainly healthcare. Thank you.
Yes.
Representative O'Neill?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, that absolutely is the case. It absolutely is a regional center, and people from Oro Road and Thief River and Baudette and, all Roseau, they all come there for commerce and for other things as well. I also have a second technical question, and in our notes it talked about the ongoing cost, and I think I understand the proposal for the bonding, but for the ongoing costs, it looks like in our notes there's about $10.5 million for the 2 homes going forward, starting in 2020. And my question is that a fully the state's responsibility, or is that something that would be federally matched, or do we know where those numbers lie? And I know I'm also looking at the Montevideo booklet that they handed out, and it shows, what the ongoing expenses are for the Minneapolis home, the Silver Bay home, Hastings, Liver, and Fergus Falls. And so I can see that, but I just want an explanation as to what the ongoing costs are going to be.
Well, I know the ongoing costs will be through the state, but I would like to bring down Ben Johnson. And you thought you were going to get by without coming down, but you have a better handle on what's going on right now with our 5 veterans' homes. I know each veteran has his benefits, his per diem that goes into his care or her care, and but that definitely doesn't cover the total cost. So, Mr. Johnson. You better introduce the help you have here today. So,
Lilia, can you wave? For the record, my name is Ben Johnson. I'm the Legislative Director for the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs, and my help here on President's Day is my daughter, Lilia. To the question of costs, a portion of the cost is paid for through the state operating budget for the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs. We also get a portion of our operating costs from the federal VA in the form of resident per diems and things like that. So it is a combined cost. And our estimate is we're looking at 2 70-bed facilities, about 100 full-time equivalent FTEs per facility. And we estimate that at about $8.25 million in salary and benefits per year per facility, and then an additional 1.75 in other expenses. But so it's about 20 million, but then there is money coming back from the VA in terms of per diem sort of reimbursed to us for the residents depending on their level of disability. We don't, I'm about 95% sure that we don't get reimbursed for spouses. The per diem is not part of their, but they pay out of pocket for some of their maintenance costs. So.
Okay, Representative O'Neill.
So if I'm understanding that correctly, it's about a $10 million ongoing expense for the 2 going forward, starting in 2020, to the state.
Mr. Johnson.
Chair, Representative, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
And just for the record, if this information is correct that they provided to us, looking in the estimated fiscal year 17, which we're in right now, just to compare, the Minneapolis Veteran Home has an $80.3 million budget just for that year. And I'm sure there's a difference in how many they serve, but
Right.
thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Representative Miller, did you want to make another comment, a closing statement, or Representative Bliss, any closing statements?
Mr. Chair, I just thank you for this time, and I appreciate your flexibility in having us kind of discuss why these two work together. I think that was demonstrated by these gentlemen. I certainly cannot add on to what they said. I thank you for their time, and I thank the service of all of these veterans here. And we ask for your support, and we'll be a little bit more conversations in the next committee, should this be forwarded.
Well, committee, we've heard from three communities now, Fillmore County, Bemidji, Montevideo. All three did an excellent job in presenting their case for what they feel they need for their community and for the veterans of the state of Minnesota. So Representative Bliss renews his motion that House File 1109 be re-referred to the State Government Finance Committee. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion prevails. House File 1109 is referred to State Government Finance. Thank you. Okay, we're going to have the Vietnam Veterans of America present their overview. These gentlemen have to be off to another meeting, so and then we'll continue on with the other pieces of legislation. Welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself and who you represent.
I'm Maynard Catterlick. I'm with Vietnam Veterans of America. And just want to give you a little history and where Vietnam Veterans of America, I call them VVA, if you will. Bruce and I will, I'll speak about some history and how we came about. And Bruce is going to give a little update also on legislation, community service, and other topics. Real quick, the handouts that we've handed out to all the people here in the room. One is the self-help guide, which is from our national office, and it has this presumptions from Agent Orange, our exposure to Agent Orange, not just in Vietnam, but they used it all over the world. And also, we take care of our veterans, try to get legislation for them with all the problems they have from their exposure to Agent Orange, and now we're seeing problems in our children and grandchildren. So those are the two handouts that you have. Again, I served in the United States Navy from 1966 to 1970, 2 years off the coast and a year up in the Mekong Delta with the 9th Infantry Division. I've been with Vietnam Veterans of America about 28 years. I was former State Council President here in Minnesota with Vietnam Veterans of America for 10 years. VVA conception, if you will, came about in 1978. VVA is the only national Vietnam veterans organization congressionally chartered and exclusively dedicated to Vietnam veterans and their families. And that being said, we've also, over the years, helped World War II vets, Korean vets, the modern-day warriors, and Cold War era veterans. So we've taken care of a lot of them. We still maintain a office at the Whipple building, and we lost our service rep, Julie Bailey, about 3 years ago, who was with us for 21 years, that manned that office. We have 47 states that have state consuls across the United States. Of the 47 states, there are 500 chapters total, 12 of which are here in Minnesota. Membership at the time stands at about 82,000. Our national office is in Silver Spring, Maryland. Agent Orange's issue at this time is one of our highest priorities for our veterans and for our children and grandchildren, and in some cases, great-grandchildren. So we Agent Orange was a defoliant which was used to kill the jungle in Vietnam and many other places in the world. The Minnesota State Council Agent Orange Committee, which I'm a head of, have completed 32 Faces of Agent Orange town hall meetings, which, when we say the faces, our children and grandchildren, we want to educate the veterans and their families and the community what this has done to our children. We believe genetically we passed it on to our children. Myself, I've already had one of the cancers. My son, severe learning disability. My granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter, autistic, and a rash in her private area forever and a day. And now we have concern with a little one, 2.5 years old. And so this Agent Orange was some of the deadliest dioxin. We had it in our blood when we came home. Now it's in our tissues, and you just know when that bomb's going to go off again. VVA's slogan is never again will a generation of veterans abandon another. And in digressing a little bit, going back, the Agent Orange Town Hall meetings, Faces of Agent Orange Town Hall meetings, we have 3 more scheduled here in Minnesota, one in Faribault, Minnesota at the National Guard Armory. So if you really want to come, we would really love to see you folks there and educate you on this toxic substance. And then another one will be, those will be 2 sessions, morning and afternoon. Faribault Air Museum, April 23rd, just after afternoon session. And then in Alexandria, Minnesota, 2 sessions, morning and afternoon, June 17th. It is some of the deadliest dioxin that you could carry in your body. And like I said, you didn't even have to be in Vietnam to be exposed to this. They use it all on the bases, perimeters of the bases of the United States. VVA someday will be gone when the last one of us are called home. So there will be no longer a VVA when we're all gone. The words on the wall here on the mall is, we were young, we have died, remember us. Perhaps someday there will be a memorial somewhere saying, we were old, we have died, remember us. Because once we're gone, VVA will be gone. And of course, there are many memorials all over the country for our veterans, and like I said, someday we'll all be gone. So Vietnam Veterans of America will be gone. But we do a lot of legislative stuff, and Bruce is going to highlight that for you now.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Bruce Brannigan. Listening to some of the conversations that have been going on during the previous part of the day, I came from a town in northern Minnesota. My grandfather lived near Lake Itasca, and my grandmother lived in Shoveling for a time. But I serve as a secretary / adjutant for Vietnam Veterans of Minnesota here in Minnesota. I also serve as the legislative coordinator for both federal and state issues. I served in Vietnam, interestingly, in the same area that Maynard served in the Mekong River in 1968. I served in D Company, 3rd and 60th Infantry, 9th Infantry Division. I was a rifleman replacement for Tet Offensive, and I got to know the swamps in the Delta personally. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Vietnam vets in Minnesota and what Vietnam vets does. Some of the good things. I don't want to take too long. I made 4 pages of notes, so if I start writing a little long, just
Don't worry, I'll cut you off. So
yeah, I think we have a pretty good news story to tell. We run two offices here in the Twin Cities. One is in the Veteran Service Building, where we maintain a presence. We do this strictly on a volunteer basis. We have no paid positions. And it's all volunteer work driven by the motivation of what we saw in Vietnam, the people we knew. So that gives us a lot of motivation to contribute volunteer time and effort to good effect. We maintain an office on a volunteer basis, as I said, in the Veteran Service Building. And we also, one of our most prided activities is the veteran service officer that we support financially. We support the veteran service officer in the Whipple building, in Vietnam Veterans Office, and he is supported by Vietnam Veterans for a salary. And we pay the office supplies for that same office. The State Council meets out there regularly to maintain good ties and contacts with the veteran service officer. We're open for business, and that is a direct way that we can help our fellow veterans in having their ailments treated and their various claims processed. He does an excellent job. He comes to our State Council meetings, and we can't say enough good things about him, and that's one way we help our fellow veterans. We are a nonpartisan organization. We think both Republicans and Democrats will support veterans, whether the war is agreed with or not. We went and served our country, and we think for that reason we're strictly nonpartisan. Some of the primary concerns that we saw when we came back from Vietnam, sometimes to a hostile environment, sometimes not. Some of the things that we saw, and of course we share this with other veterans organizations, that medical care for wounded veterans, for veterans that have incurred their problems through service, we need to support that. Other issues raised by Vietnam Veterans of America were, as Maynard talked about it, was Agent Orange. Agent Orange was everywhere. We swam at it. We took our baths in the tributaries of the Mekong River, and so we know Agent Orange, and we have felt that and slept in it. I took a Agent Orange physical in 1982 before my family started, before we started having a family. And so we know Agent Orange, and PTSD is another primary concern. When veterans came back, they came back fast. This was not, I came back in 48 hours from a area in Vietnam, and processed out and was back here on the streets in the Twin Cities. So I had gone to 3.5 years of university over at University of Minnesota before. You get back in those streets and they've changed. They look a lot different. We used to say it's easy to go but hard to come back, and I didn't believe that. I believe it now. And so that post-traumatic stress is something that we have a personal expense with or experience, and many of our members share that same experience. We also were aware of homeless veterans. We work with MACV. We support MACV financially to get homeless veterans a complete help and getting back first off the street, getting treatment, and then eventually ending up with a job.
I'm going to
And-
ask you to wrap it up. We have 3 more bills we need to go through, and so if you could kind of wrap it up, and then
And
we need to go
so-
on.
So the, I told you, I wore it, but that's good. And we do support veterans from other wars. The VBA believes that supporting other veterans of other wars will help them make a good transition. We value community service. I have a long list of community service activities, which I will not mention. And communication is important to us. That we get the information that we receive from committees like this, and give them back to our members. We want to thank Chairman Detman, Detmer for this opportunity to tell you about the things that we do. We think it's a good news story. We're motivated strongly, and we know that this committee turns out a lot of good legislation. We're watching for legislation for the Minnesota, or for the disabled American veterans, for paralyzed veterans. That's a priority with us. And we want to thank you for listening to some of the things we have. The problem is, we think we have too many stories to tell. So thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Chairman.
Are there any questions? Well, thank you for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you.
You bet. The next bill on the agenda is House File 936. Representative Ecklund, please come to the table with your testifiers. And I will move House File 936 before the committee, that it be re-referred to the Environment of Natural Resources Committee. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members, and this bill shouldn't take too long. I was approached by a gentleman that the chairman I know has been fishing with him up on his little piece of property up there in Finland, Minnesota. It's called the Legacy Homestead. He's put aside somewhere between 60 and 80 acres that he dedicates just to the Silver Bay Veterans Home. He takes some trout fishing. I think you guys have some pictures in the packets, and he takes some deer hunting, and some of the veterans that had expressed an interest in possibly bear hunting. In Finland area is a lot of time a lottery zone, so sometimes they might not be around long enough to get enough lottery points. So I worked with the DNR and put this bill in, and the wildlife people said that if the veterans buy a permit by August 1st, that they'll allow one permit for a veteran home, so it could be any veteran home in the state. They couldn't just limit it to Silver Bay, so it's any veteran's home, but one lottery that would get the high priority number for allow them to bear hunt. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I don't have much else to say about it in case anybody has any questions, so thank you.
Mr. Meyer, any question?
Mr. Chairman, members of the record, Bob Meyer, Assistant Commissioner DNR. I'm just here to answer questions. We do support the language as stated and look forward to getting people out in the woods.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the audience? Okay. Any closing remarks, Representative Ecklund?
Well, no, Mr. Chair, I just appreciate the support, and anything we can do to the veterans. I really enjoyed those last presentations, and I was running out to say hello to Commissioner Venny. He was a long-time friend of mine. That's why I ran out, so I wasn't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The chair renews the motion in House File 936 be referred to the Environment and Natural Resource Policy and Finance Committee. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
Motion
you.
prevails. House File 936 will be re-referred to Environment. The next bill on the agenda is House File 965, Representative Maye Quade bill. Reverend Quade, would you like to move your bill before the committee, as it's going to be re-referred to the State Government Finance Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I would move that the bill be re-referred to the State Finance Committee.
Okay, your bill is before the committee. Please fill us in on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, this bill simply commissions a new plaque to replace the current plaque that exists honoring World War I veterans. The new plaque would honor World War veterans who served both at home and abroad. The current plaque only honors those who served abroad. I have Paul Mandel here with me who can talk a little bit more about the details, but I think the final World War I veteran died sometime in 2012. So we don't have World War I veterans around. It's important that we continue to stand up for them, honor them for quite literally giving us the country that we continue to live in today. So I will turn it over to Paul, and I appreciate your consideration of this bill.
Mr. Mandel,
Mr.
please
Chair.
introduce yourself.
Paul Mandel, Executive Secretary for the Capital Area Architectural and Planning Board. Testified over in the other house the other day, last week. Turns out that there were a number of World War I vets at the time who died not seeing action, but who died at Fort Dodge. There was a worldwide flu epidemic, and over 700 Minnesotans died during that flu epidemic. So we've done this before with other plaques that are down in the Court of Honor, where it's funded through private donations and the wording, and these days sometimes we get into more decorative art. If you've been down to the Court of Honor recently, the Native American plaque actually had some of the Native American words and language and some artwork incorporated into the memorial plaque. On the current one, there's just a medal that's illustrated, so it leaves it to our solicitation for designs and wording, and we'd work with the Veterans Affairs Commission to make sure that the wording is accurate, the numbers that we use are accurate, so hopefully this will be done the right way this time.
Are there any questions for the testifier or for the author? Yes, Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. What will happen to the current artwork?
Representative, Mr. Mandel.
Chair, Representative, that's a good question. We've had 2 plaques replaced. One was the Bataan Death March plaque, and I don't know. I don't know if they get melted down in the foundry or how they get recycled. But I don't know if the veterans. I'm seeing no.
Representative O'Driscoll.
I could check and look into that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. There was a point in time, obviously, where that plaque was deemed to be the representation of the World War I veterans. We are increasing the scope of that, which I definitely encourage and am supportive of. I'm wondering if you can comment, Mr. Mandel, would it be appropriate to have additional plaques as we begin to learn more about what had happened during those times, as we continue to honor additional persons instead of saying, well, now this is going to be the new. I'd hate to use the word revisionist history, but in a degree, that's what it is when you have some of those things that were coming up on 100 years after World War I, and that monument is probably 75 to 80 years old. Just maybe some thoughts on that.
Mr. Mandel.
Mr. Chair, Representative, the Court of Honor was established in, I think, 55. There was still a street there at the time. There are over 14 or 16 plaques currently there. There were about 8 spots left in the Court of Honor on the wall as it now exists. We have worked with Veterans Affairs Commission very, very carefully on these. A few years back, there was a Merchant Marine petition, and the Merchant Marine were posthumous, or I shouldn't say posthumous, retroactively added to the armed forces. You have to be part of the armed forces to have a plaque in the Court of Honor. That's part of the rule, overriding rule. So that plaque ended up including 38 different civilian organizations, including the Merchant Marine, the Waves and the WACs, and a whole bunch of others, Northwest Airlines stewardesses and pilots that flew planes to the war zone. So that's why we work carefully with the Veterans Affairs Commission, because they give us the accurate numbers, they give us the political sensitivity so that it doesn't become an issue.
Representative O'Driscoll.
I've already said enough on the matter, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Representative Maye Quade, is there going to be any cost, any fiscal note on your bill?
And I can let Mr. Mandel speak more to this, but when the plaques are commissioned, the private financing for the plaques are also come along with it as well. So there's no cost to the state.
Okay.
But the cost is about $5,000. There's already fundraising underway, and I think about $2,000 of that has been raised so far.
Okay. Mr. Mandel, any?
That's accurate, Mr. Chair. All the plaques are 30 by 40, and they're all, used to be more expensive. They come down in cost. They use the same foundry, and it's pretty much a $5,000 deal now. It's always privately fundraised.
Representative, any closing remarks?
The only thing I'll say is that this plaque would coincide with the 100-year honoring that's happening both with the National History Museum and across the country. It would match something that's also happening in Pershing Park in Washington, D.C. So with that, I hope that I have the support of the committee to honor all of our veterans who served both at home and abroad.
Okay, with that, Representative Maye Quade renews her motion that House File 965 be re-referred to the State Government Finance Committee. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion prevails. House File 965 is re-referred to State Government Finance. Next bill on the agenda, House File 1096. Representative McQuaid, bill. Representative McQuaid, would you like to move your bill before the committee and it be referred to the Tax Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'd like to refer my bill to Tax Committee.
Okay, please tell us about your bill.
Thank you. Well, members, we heard an identical bill earlier this year, and so I don't want to take up too much time explaining it to you again. It extends the property tax exclusion that happens for 70, 80, 90% disabled veterans to the spouses of those veterans upon their death. I do want to tell you the story about how this came to me. When I was door knocking this summer, obviously I don't make it to every door, so I asked volunteers to take down names and phone numbers if folks wanted to talk to me directly. And my campaign manager actually took down the name and phone number of someone that she knocked on their door. I don't have permission to use the name, but I have permission to use the story, so I'll just call this person Jay. I spoke to Jay on the phone for 2 hours. Jay is a 70% disabled veteran, and he and his wife, we'll call her V, they have 2 children, one at St. Thomas and one at Gustavus. And Jay has a service-connected disability and an terminal illness not related to his service. So he is terminally ill. And one of their biggest concerns was when he passes, how will they continue to afford their house and send their kids to college? After I was elected and I was appointed to this committee, it was a unique pleasure to call him and tell him I'm actually on the committee that deals with the very issue we spent 2 hours talking about. So it's a pleasure and a privilege to be here today to honor or to offer this bill in direct response to something that was asked of me by a constituent. I called Jay and V and asked them if they'd like to come watch or testify today, and Jay has moved into hospice care. So this bill is particularly timely as well. We know that when we send folks abroad, when they sign up for service, it's not just them that are affected, it's their families as well. I think that we owe it to the spouses of our disabled veterans to allow them to stay in the homes that they lived in with their spouse, and to allow the decision, I'm sure, that the property tax exclusion factored into their decision to buy the house, to honor that as well. So with that, I will turn it back over to the committee, Mr. Chair.
Are there any questions? And I think we all know there's been other bills going forward, and I know your bill will be going to the tax committee, and things will work out. Hopefully, we'll get something through on this important issue. Any people in the audience would like to testify? Yes, Representative Lynn?
I just wanted to thank Representative Maye Quade and others who have brought this issue to our attention. It's the kind of thing that you wouldn't know is a problem until somebody brings it to you. So I just wanted to thank you and others who have worked on this.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions from the audience? Okay, with that, Representative McQuaid renews, we got one right here. Go ahead. Please introduce yourself.
Tom Diamond, DFL Veterans Caucus. Certainly support this bill, but the chair just raised a point, and Representative Maye Quade, in another one of these provisions that kind of have to get fused together, it provides the essentially backdating that because we have another case that the DAV brought to the attention. And I think that it's important that when this presumably gets included, that provision also apply to the 70 to 90% disabled. So if unfortunately, as what looks like the case, the timeliness of this, or at least individuals who would be in this case on the 70 to 90%, the spouses would be able to apply for it, even if their spouse has passed before this actually gets effective. That's all I wanted to
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Diamond. With that, Representative McQuaid renews her motion that House File 1096 be re-referred to the Tax Committee. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. House File 1096 is re-referred to taxes. The last item on the agenda is a presentation by the Paralyzed Veterans of America. And presenting for the organization is Todd Kimmery and Jim Dolan. And please make your way. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chairman Detmer and committee members. I'm not Todd Kimmery. I'll be introducing him in a minute. My name is Ken Klein, and I'm the president and national director for the Paralyzed Veterans of America, the Minnesota chapter. With me today is Todd Kimmery. He's our vice president and advocacy director for the chapter. And Jim Dolan is our board member and legislative director.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing the Paralyzed Veterans of America the opportunity to talk to you this afternoon on the PVA and who we are and what we do. Paralyzed Veterans of America was established back in 1946 by World War II veterans who came home from the war with a catastrophic spinal cord injury and found it difficult to access care, benefits, and support. Paralyzed Veterans of America is the only congressionally chartered veteran service organization dedicated solely for the benefit and representation of veterans with spinal cord injury or disease. For nearly 70 years, and we are celebrating our 70th anniversary this year, we've ensured that veterans have received the benefits earned through their service to our nation. We monitor their care in VA spinal cord injury units, and we fund research and education in the search for a cure and improve care for individuals with paralysis. So where do we differ from other veteran service organizations? We're the only VSO that routinely audits VA hospitals' spinal cord injury centers. There are 24 of these spinal cord injury centers throughout the VA hospital system. During these, what we call site visits, they can take up to 4 days to complete. We meet with all the disciplines at the spinal cord injury centers to ensure that the quality medical care is provided to veterans with a spinal cord injury or disease in a timely and an appropriate manner. When I mention disease, when I say spinal cord injury and disease, the disease is a veteran who has MS or ALS, and their disease has progressed to a point where it's affected their spinal cord. We're the only VSO with licensed doctors, nurses, and architects on staff to conduct these site visits throughout the country. We're also the only VSO to host an annual continuing education medical conference called the Summit, where over 900 clinicians throughout the VA hospital system attend. Paralyzed Veterans of America also co-sponsors with the VA the largest annual multi-wheelchair sporting competition in the world. This event is called the National Veterans Wheelchair Games, where we draw over 600 veterans from around the country to compete in a 6-day event, 6 days, and there's 20 events that we participate in. Teams come from all over the U.S., including teams from Puerto Rico, Guam, and the United Kingdom. Our chapter, the Minnesota chapter, normally sends approximately 20 veterans to these games, along with the 5 coaches to help us. This year's event will take place in Cincinnati in July, and back in 2005, the Minnesota VA Hospital and the PVA sponsored it here in Minneapolis. In addition to the wheelchair games, our local chapter offers other events during the course of the year, such as tickets to the Minnesota Twins, Minnesota Vikings, and Minnesota Wild. We offer bowling, archery, trap shooting, basketball, just to name a few. Our goal is all to get our veterans out of the house, sort of off the couch, to again experience social activities that they once enjoyed prior to their injury or disease. With more than 70 offices and 34 chapters, Paralyzed Veterans of America serves veterans, their families, and their caregivers in all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. Our chapter in Minnesota has approximately 350 paralyzed veterans. There's approximately 19,000 of them nationwide. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Todd, our advocacy director, and we'll make sure you're out of here on time.
Please introduce yourself. We're doing good. We're doing good here.
Thank you, Chair Detmer and representatives. I'm Todd Kemery. I am the Vice President of our local chapter. I'm also one half of our legislative and advocacy team. To my left is the other half, Jim Deline. But before we get to him, I'd like to comment a few things on what we do with advocacy locally and also what we do legislative locally. PVA Minnesota has been on several stadium accessibility advisory committees, starting with the Twins and including the U.S. Bank Stadium, home of the Vikings. the new St. Paul Saints Ballpark, and we are currently on the Target Center renovations and the new Minnesota United Soccer Stadium Committee. We continue to work very closely with the Minnesota State Council on Disability, and PVA has a presence on the Metropolitan Council's Metropolitan Parks and Open Space Commission. PVA is also on the Spinal Cord Injury and Traumatic Brain Injury Grant Committee. The state of Minnesota established the Spinal Cord Injury and Traumatic Brain Injury Grant Program for institutions in the state of in Minnesota for research into new and innovative treatments and rehabilitative efforts for the functional improvement of people with spinal cord and traumatic brain injuries. Legislatively, locally, PVA works with the other VSOs to help support all veterans. PVA is the newest member of the Commander's Task Force, and we are a member of the United Veterans Legislative Council. We support and are a presence at the monthly Military Action Group meetings, the MAG meetings, chaired by Representative Detmer, and we also support and work with the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs. Nationally, we work together to create the independent budget. The IB or the independent budget was developed 30 years ago. It started from the beginning as a partnership between PVA, DAV, VFW, and AMVETS. Currently, the partnership includes PVA, the Disabled American Veterans, and the Veterans of Foreign Wars. The three organizations work in partnership to present this annual budget request to Congress with policy recommendations regarding veterans benefits and health care, as well as funding forecasts for the Department of Veterans Affairs. The independent budget has earned the reputation as an accurate representation of the budget needs. With that, I'll conclude my part of the presentation, and I would like to introduce, again, to my left, Jim Detmer, Jim Deline.
Starts with a D.
Close enough.
And I'll let him give some of his personal views.
Okay, welcome, please introduce yourself.
That American committee members, I am Jim Deline. I'm the new legislative director for the Paralyzed Veterans of America Minnesota chapter, and so this is a learning process for me of what's happening this year, and I really appreciate being here. I just want to tell you what Paralyzed Veterans has done for me. When I first went to the Spinal Cord Injury Center, you go through a 3-day physical, and part of the physical, you go through all of these different disciplines, one of them being physical therapy. I went into physical therapy, and they looked at me and they said, what do you do for exercise? And I said, well, I liked to bicycle when I was able to walk. And matter of fact, I rode across the United States when I was 48. When I was 50, I couldn't get on a bicycle any longer. But so I ride with a hand cycle, and they said, well, then you have to participate in the wheelchair games. I said, what are you talking about, wheelchair games? So they took me across the hallway to the office, our office, which is right across the PVA office, is right across the hallway from the spinal cord, or from the physical therapy center. So here's Todd over there. He said, he said, I got to sign you up. And well, anyway, I went to the wheelchair games and participated in these different events. And my wife went with me. And you see all these people in wheelchairs with different degrees of disability. You know, some are using the straw to move around, and all ages and men and women. It's just such a tremendous event, and so rewarding and to take part in this thing. So this year I'm looking forward to. I ride a hand cycle, I bowl, I trap shoot, I do the shot put, discus and javelin, and it's just an amazing event that this
All three of us go.
Paralyzed Veterans Organization takes part in. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment, any questions from the committee? Well, committee, I think we have one more agency from the Commander's Task Force to come in probably next week. And the reason why I'm doing this is so that everybody understands exactly what type of services are provided by different agencies on the Commander's Task Force, and you have a better understanding. Hundreds of people that are volunteering, helping out in these different agencies, and but we really want to thank you for coming in today and sharing your experiences and what your organization does for our veterans. So
thanks for giving us the time.
And with that, this meeting is adjourned.